Hello, sports fans. Welcome to Super Sports Central. Today, we're going to be going over my Week 3 NFL predictions. So last week, I didn't have the greatest week, going just 8-8, and that brings my record on the season to 20-12. But kicking things off this week with Thursday Night Football, that is the Jets hosting the Patriots. So the Patriots have actually been surprisingly competitive to start the season, as they beat the Bengals and took the Seahawks to overtime. And the Patriots, they found success by leaning on their run game and defense, as they're running for 177 yards per game and allowing just 16.5 points per game. Now, the Patriots do match up pretty well against the Jets, as the Jets are allowing 155 rushing yards a game, which is in the bottom third of the league, and they're also averaging just 21 points a game. So when you actually look at the matchup, it's a decent matchup for the Patriots, but I'm not going to take them to get the win, as I'm going to take the Jets. While their defense hasn't been great, I think they will improve as the season progresses and make their way back to the elite level they played at last year. And then the Jets offense just needs time to play together, and I think we saw them start to improve last week at the end of the game against the Titans with 17 second half points, and I think that will continue into this week's game, so I'll take the Jets to win a close one, 24-18. Moving to the games on Sunday, beginning with the Giants at the Browns. So the Browns picked up their first win of the season last week, and they won that game because of their defense. The Browns now face the Giants offense that isn't good, although showed a lot of improvement during last week's game against the Commanders. But the Giants offense still isn't good, as they're scoring 12 points a game. The Browns need to stop rookie receiver Malik Nabers, who's been great in his first two games. But the Browns have a good secondary. They've also got a great pass rush, which should keep Daniel Jones under constant pressure. Now, the Browns offense hasn't been that good so far, scoring just 17 points per game. But as long as their defense plays well, I don't think their offense needs to have a great game. And I think that's going to be the difference. Browns win this game because of their defense, 18-10. Next game, we got the Packers at the Titans. So the Packers quarterback situation is interesting, as there's a chance Jordan Love returns from his knee injury a lot earlier than expected, as he's already returned to practice, but he's still a big question mark for the Packers. Now, if Love doesn't play, then it will be Malik Willis getting the start against his former team. Now, speaking of the Titans quarterbacks, they need significantly better quarterback play from Will Levis, who's made some really bad mistakes late in the game so far. But offensively for both teams, I'm expecting them to try to run the football, as both teams have good running backs and not great quarterbacks, especially if Malik Willis plays for the Packers. But the Titans, they're running for 135 yards per game, where the Packers lead the NFL with 212 rushing yards a game. Now, the difference comes defensively against the run, as the Titans are allowing just 92 rushing yards per game, while the Packers are allowing 142 yards per game and over 5 yards per carry. But I do think both teams will find success on the ground and, for the most part, have their way running the football. Now, the numbers say the Titans should win. I just don't trust the Titans to do so. They've been on the wrong side of some close games so far, both games actually ending 24-17. I'm going to stick with that score, and I'll take the Packers to win 24-17. And I'm just going to go with my gut here, but it could definitely be a Titans win. Next game, we got the Bears at the Colts. So this is a good opportunity for both teams to get a win. And this is a really big game for Caleb Williams and the Bears offense, because the Bears offense has struggled quite a bit so far to start the season, with just one offensive touchdown in 2 games. And they now face the Colts defense, which is one of the worst defenses in the NFL. Plus, they just placed their best defensive player, DeForest Buckner, on the IR. So this is really a big game for Caleb Williams to see how he looks against a bad defense. On the other side of things, the Colts, with their young quarterback, Anthony Richardson, he's looking for a bounce-back game after a rough start last week against the Packers, but the Bears' defense has been pretty good this season. I do think this is a game where Anthony Richardson could play well, but this is a game where I really have no idea who will win. The Colts need to avoid an 0-3 start. They're at home, but with how bad their defense is, I don't trust them to get the win. I think the Bears will win. Caleb Williams will have his best game as an NFL player by far, so far, and the Bears will win this one 26-17. Next game, we got the Texans at the Vikings. So here we have a battle between two undefeated teams, and the Vikings and Sam Darnold have been one of the biggest surprises so far this season. But Sam Darnold now has a tough task, as he faces a good Texans pass defense, plus his top 2 receivers, Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, are both dealing with injuries, but there is a chance both of them play. But even if the Vikings had a fully healthy receiving core, it would still be tough for the Vikings offense against good Texans defense. On the other side, the Texans offense has been good, and negative Vikings defense that is good but struggled last week against the 49ers. This is another game I could see going either way. I think this will be a higher scoring game, and despite both defenses being pretty good, I think the offenses will be better. But to me, this game comes down to quarterback play, and I think CJ Stroud outplays Sam Darnold, and the Texans win this one 27-24. But that's a game that could truly go either way. Moving on, we have the Eagles at the Saints. So the Saints have gotten off to a tremendous start this season, outscoring their opponents 91-29 in their first two games. But how long will their insane play continue? That's the question. The Eagles are a good team, but they're coming in on a short week after blowing the game against the Falcons on Monday Night Football. But the Saints, they're scoring 45.5 points a game in their first couple games, and they now face an Eagles defense that isn't that good. They haven't really been able to stop the run or the pass, so I'm thinking the Saints are going to have another big offensive game. I'm not sure they'll get into the 40s again, but I definitely think they'll be able to easily hit 30. Then for the Eagles offense, they're without A.J. Brown, who's dealing with a hamstring injury, but the Eagles offense is good, and they go against a Saints defense that is also good, allowing just 14.5 points per game. But this is a game that could go either way. I had my doubts about the Saints coming into this season, but after last week, I feel comfortable picking them, and I'm going to take the Saints to win this one 35-24. But watch, now that I picked the Saints to win, they won't win. But I think the Saints stay hot and win this one at home over the Eagles. Next game, we got the Chargers at the Steelers. So this is a game where both of these teams are surprisingly 2-0, as the Steelers will be starting Justin Fields once again, and they're starting him as Russell Wilson continues to deal with the calf injury. Now, Justin Fields hasn't necessarily been putting up MVP-type numbers, but he's done what the Steelers have needed him to do and protected the football. For the Chargers, their quarterback Justin Herbert is also dealing with an injury, but he's expected to be able to play. Offensively, both teams have leaned on the run game so far, as the Chargers are rushing for 197 yards per game, while the Steelers are running for 139 yards per game. Both teams are also strong against the run, as the Steelers are allowing just 80 rushing yards a game, and the Chargers allowing just 76 rushing yards a game. But I think this game would be won in one of two ways. Either one team controls the line of scrimmage, and that's going to be a huge difference with how each team wants to run the football, but I don't really think one team will have a major advantage in the trenches. So where I see this game being decided is going to come down to the quarterbacks and the passing game. I trust Justin Herbert a lot more than I trust Justin Fields and the Steelers, so I'm going to take the Chargers to get the win, remain undefeated, and beat the Steelers by a score of 21-17. Next game, we got the Broncos at the Buccaneers. So the Broncos have gotten off to a rough start this year. They're 0-2, and rookie quarterback Bo Nix has struggled with 0 passing touchdowns and 4 interceptions. But he now faces a Buccaneers pass defense that allows teams to move the football through the air, but they're the only team in the NFL to not allow a passing touchdown yet this year. Now, that's kind of how the Buccaneers defense has been overall, as they're bottom 5 in yards allowed, yet they're top 8 in points allowed. Then the Buccaneers offense has been great, scoring 28.5 points a game, and they face the Broncos defense that's okay, allowing about 20 a game. But this is a game where I think the Buccaneers will win. Baker Mayfield has been great to start the season. He stays hot, and the Bucs win 24-13. Moving on, we've got the Raiders hosting the Panthers. This is easily the worst game of the week, but the Panthers have made it somewhat interesting, as they have benched former number 1 overall pick Bryce Young, and they're now starting Andy Dalton. So maybe Andy Dalton can spark the Panthers' offense, which has otherwise been brutal. Now, while the Panthers' offense is bad, so is their defense, as they've allowed the most points so far this year. Now, the Raiders aren't the greatest team, but they've at least been competitive. In fact, they actually upset the Ravens last week. But the Panthers could be a little better here, and maybe Andy Dalton at quarterback sparks the team a little bit. But changing the quarterback won't solve every problem for this team, and there's a lot of problems. And I'm going to take the Raiders to get the win by a score of 27-15. Moving on, we've got the Dolphins at the Seahawks. So the Dolphins will be starting Skylar Thompson at quarterback, as Tua has been placed on the IR with a concussion. But Skylar Thompson has started a few games for the Dolphins, and he now has to face a good Seahawks defense in a tough environment. The Seahawks have one of the best pass defenses in the NFL, allowing just 128 passing yards per game. And the Seahawks offense has been great. Geno Smith has gotten a great start this year, and he now faces a Dolphins defense that just gave up 31 to the Bills. So I'm expecting a pretty good game from the Seahawks offensively, but something to watch is their ability to run the football, as they probably won't have Kenneth Walker again, but the Dolphins' run defense isn't that good. But I'm going to take the Seahawks to get the win here. I think they'll win this game pretty easily. I don't think the Dolphins will find much offensive success without Tua and against a good Seahawks defense. And I'll take the Seahawks to get the win 27-13. Next game, we got the Ravens at the Cowboys. So this is an interesting game because both teams need this game. The Ravens are 0-2 and desperately need to avoid an 0-3 start because there have only been 6 teams to start 0-3 and still make the playoffs. But the Ravens, they get a tough task in facing the Cowboys, who were destroyed by the Saints last week. But this is actually a really interesting matchup, as the Ravens, well, they have been pretty good offensively. Their offensive line is bad, and they don't have to face Micah Parsons and a great Cowboys pass rush. And while the Cowboys pass rush is great, their run defense isn't, as they were run over by the Saints last week, and they're allowing 141 rushing yards a game and nearly 5 yards per carry. And that is a great matchup for the Ravens with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. The Cowboys offense also has a pretty favorable matchup, as they face a Ravens secondary that is allowing the most passing yards in the league, allowing 257 yards per game. But this is a matchup I could truly see going either way. The Ravens are desperate for the win. I think they'll get it. Lamar Jackson has been great in the first 2 games. I think we'll have another big game as both a passer and a runner, and he'll lead the Ravens to the 29-25 win. Up next, we got the 49ers at the Rams. Both teams suffered disappointing losses last week and are looking to bounce back. The 49ers lost to the Vikings and the Rams were destroyed by the Cardinals. Both teams are also very banged up, as the 49ers will be without Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel, while the Rams are without Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, and half their offensive line. Now, while the 49ers are without key players, they still have good playmakers like Brandon Ayuk, Jordan Mason, and George Kittle, whereas the Rams are missing a lot more key production. Now, I also don't think the Rams will be able to protect Matthew Stafford against a great 49ers pass rush with half their offensive line out for this game with injury. Now, while the Rams do need to avoid the 0-3 start, with all their injuries, I just don't see them getting the win here. I've got the 49ers getting back on track and winning 24-16. Next game, we got the Lions at the Cardinals. This is another interesting game. The Lions lost to the Bucs last week, and the Cardinals destroyed the Rams. The Cardinals' offense was great, putting up over 40 points, and then they'll face the Lions' defense that hasn't been the greatest to start the season. So I could see another good game for Kyler Murray and the Cardinals' offense. The Lions' offense is also good, although they haven't necessarily been putting up the highest point totals so far this year, and they face a Cardinals' defense that is decent but nothing too great. I think this game will be a higher scoring game. Both offenses will find success, but I'm going to take the Lions to get the win. I think they've got the better offense, a better overall team, and the Lions win 31-27. Next game, we got the Chiefs at the Falcons on Sunday Night Football. So we will have a live watch ready for this game that will start at about 8:15 Eastern Time on Sunday, so I hope to see you guys there. So the Falcons, they're playing their second straight primetime game after a big comeback win over the Eagles on Monday night. Kirk Cousins hasn't been too good as a Falcon, but there's a chance he can have a good game, as the Chiefs' pass defense hasn't been that good, allowing 256 passing yards per game, which is second worst in the NFL. The Chiefs' offense has been good, scoring 26.5 points a game, but they face what has been a pretty good Falcons defense, allowing under 20 points a game. This is a game where I think both teams will find a decent amount of offensive success, and I don't think it will be a shootout, but I do think both teams will play pretty well offensively. But I'm going to take the better offense, and that is obviously Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, plus I don't want to pick against Mahomes. I'll take the Chiefs to win this one 26-20. Next game, we got the Jaguars at the Bills, and this is the first game on Monday Night Football. So the Bills, they're playing on a long week after dominating the Dolphins on Thursday night. And then they'll face the Jaguars, who have gotten off to a rough start, especially offensively, scoring just 15 points per game. But the Jaguars' offense has a tough task, facing a Bills defense that allowed just 10 points last week to the Dolphins and forced 3 turnovers. Now, I don't think the Jaguars' offense will find a ton of success, but their defense has been pretty good and gotten them to a 1-1 record where they are now. But I just don't think their defense is good enough to hold the Bills' offense to a low enough point total for 4 quarters. And I think the Bills' offense will be too much to handle. Bills end up with a pretty convincing win, 28-14. Next game, we got the Commanders at the Bengals on Monday Night Football. So this is the second Monday Night Football game, and this is the game we will have a live watch party for that will start at about 8:10 Eastern Time on Monday. The Bengals are 0-2 and desperately need a win. The Bengals' offense was much better last week despite losing to the Chiefs, but I think their offense should have a great game once again as they face a terrible Commanders defense. Now, the Commanders' offense has been solid, but I just don't think they're going to be able to keep up with Joe Burrow and the Bengals' offense, who I think will have a field day. But Jaden Daniels will make some plays to keep this game somewhat close, but in the end, the Bengals end up with the 31-17 win over the Commanders. But those are my Week 3 NFL predictions. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to like this video, subscribe, turn notifications so don't miss any of their upcoming videos. I do my best to post as often as possible. Be sure to check out the community tab of my channel, where you guys can vote on who you think will win some of this week's big games. But thank you for watching. Be sure to like this video, subscribe, turn notifications. I do my best to post as often as possible, and I will see you in the next video.